For this video, there's going to be sources in the comments. So if you would like to look at any of the research that I have taken a look at and gathered for the making of this video, they will be in the comments and they will be linked. Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. In today's video, we're going to be asking an interesting question. Is socialism actually bad? Well, let's get into it. People cannot agree on socialism. Some say it's the only way to stop billionaires hoarding money while everyone else drowns in medical debt. Others say it is the fast lane to empty store shelves, gray apartment blocks, and secret police. According to Pew Research Center, most Americans actually like capitalism more than socialism, but a big chunk either likes both or dislikes both, which already tells you that this is not a simple good versus evil story. This is not really about whether socialism is bad in some moral scoreboard. It is about how different versions of socialism work and who they help or hurt. By the end, you will understand why people land on entirely different sides of this fight and where you also might land. At its core, socialism is trying to solve one big problem. In pure capitalism, some people end up with way more power and money than others, and that gap can wreck lives. According to Lumen Learning, socialist ideas focus on social equality, using tools like nationalizing key industries, progressive taxes, and welfare programs to reduce wealth disparities, unemployment, and even inflation through price controls. The Policy Circle notes that many modern socialists, especially democratic socialists, want collective or worker control under major industries, but still believe strongly in democracy, not one-party rule. You might notice this when people argue for things like Medicare for all, rent control, or student debt relief, which are basically attempts to say basic security first, profit later. But as we know America, any sort of help to the poor is never going to happen because like tax cuts to the rich is better. You know? On the ground, socialism, or more realistically, mixed systems with strong socialist policies can make life a lot less scary for people at the bottom. According to Economics Help, a welfare state that guarantees a minimum income plus free healthcare and education can sharply reduce relative poverty and protect people who are unemployed, sick, or unable to work. Corporate Finance Institute explains that in socialist systems, the state redistributes wealth through higher taxes on the rich and programs like subsidized healthcare and free or low-cost education, which can reduce inequality and expand social welfare for people who could otherwise be left out of the market system. Lumen Learning adds that nationalizing key sectors like energy or transport can let the state direct investment to social goals, things like universal access, not just shareholder returns. You might notice this when a public hospital treats you even if you are broke, or when public transit exists at all places where it would not be profitable on a spreadsheet. However, I must note that nationalizing key sectors would mean no iPhone or 6-7 because, like, communism and stuff. Anyways, a favorite, this is what it could look like, example in the Nordic model, countries like Sweden, Norway, Denmark, and Finland. According to Investopedia, these countries combine free market capitalism with very extensive social benefits. High taxes fund free education, free or heavily subsidized healthcare, and generous pensions while still keeping strong private businesses and global trade. Corporate and personal freedom coexist with a thick social safety net. And Investopedia notes that the region is known for high living standards and relatively low income and disparity. You might notice this whenever you see someone online says, I do not want Venezuela, I want Denmark, but, gets yelled at in the comments by both sides. But I think we should personally want no social safety nets and just let the homeless people suffer without a roof over their head. Wait, hold on. I'm getting a call from someone. Wait, you said that there's a homeless problem in the United States right now? Nah, probably fake news. Now for the flip side. critics are not just being dramatic for fun. There are serious problems baked into many versions of socialism. According to the Wikipedia article on criticisms of socialism, economists going back to Ludwig von Mises argue that when the state owns most of the economy and sets prices, it loses the information markets normally provide, which makes it hard to know what to produce, in what quantity, and at what cost. That economic calculation problem can lead to chronic shortages, wasted resources, and slower growth. Lumen Learning points out that when rewards are not closely tied to effort, people often have less incentive to innovate or work harder, which can mean slower economic growth and a more static, less dynamic economy. You might notice this when someone shrugs and says, "Why bother? I get paid the same either way." Because in America, CEOs definitely work thousands of times harder than the father and mother working 2 jobs to provide 1 slice of bread every year. So it's not like this is already happening or anything. Maybe. Critics also say that full-blown command economies tend to slide into authoritarianism, not just bad accounting. According to the Hoover Institution, 20th century socialist states that ran centrally planned economies ordered production from the top, often through quotas, and kept failing enterprises alive because there was no real market test like bankruptcy. Hoover also notes that when the plan does not match what people actually need, black economies and smuggling tend to appear to fill the gaps. The Wikipedia entry on criticism of socialism backs this up, saying that many socialist experiments produced reduced economic growth, chronic shortages, and widespread corruption among bureaucrats who controlled access to scarce goods. A concrete example, according to the Heritage Foundation, Israel, India, and the United Kingdom all tried heavy state planning and nationalization after World War II. But after decades of weak growth and rising unemployment, they liberalized toward more market-based systems and then saw much stronger prosperity. And in America, it's not like the people we elect get insider information anyways. Just don't look at their stock profiles. Don't look at them. It's not. Anyways, even the softer, nice versions of socialism come with trade-offs that are easy to ignore when you are just daydreaming about free college. Economics help points out that heavy regulation, strong unions, and high minimum wages can protect workers, but they also risk government failure, extra costs, and unemployment if rules become too rigid for firms to adapt. Lumen Learning notes that socialist systems can struggle with slow growth, fewer entrepreneurial opportunities, and a lack of motivation when individual rewards are heavily flattened. Corporate Finance Institute also notes that central planning and strong state control over resources can weaken individual incentives and create inefficiencies, meaning that if planners misjudge needs or allocate resources poorly, the whole population pays the price. You might notice this when big bureaucracies lose paperwork, delay crucial benefits, or funnel resources into politically popular projects instead of what people actually need. On one huge reason why people argue past each other is that they're not even talking about the same thing when they say socialism. According to the Policy Circle, socialism can mean anything from state nationalization of major industries to worker cooperatives to democratic governments nudging private firms to give workers more control. Britannica's American Socialism Debate notes that in the United States, socialism might mean Soviet-style one-party rule to one person and just universal healthcare and free college to another. According to Investopedia, the Nordic model is actually a mix of capitalism and strong welfare states, not a pure socialist takeover of the economy, which is why economists often describe it as a mixed system instead of full socialism. So one person hears socialism and thinks gulag, another hears socialism and thinks cheap daycare, and long parental leave. Values matter just as much as facts. According to the Pew Research Center, Americans tend to see capitalism as better at giving people opportunity and freedom, while they see socialism as better at making sure basic needs like food, healthcare, and housing are met. If your top value is freedom to build, own, and keep what you earn, capitalism looks pretty great and socialism looks like a threat. If your top value is no one failing through the floor, then systems that guarantee housing, healthcare, and income, even with high taxes and more rules, look a lot more attractive. That is how two people can look at the exact same policy, and one says, finally, fairness, while the other says that it's just soft tyranny. But personally, I like to think that freedom is more important than my Uncle John dying from healthcare being so expensive. I mean, it's got to have a cost, right? And it's not like I'm in his situation or anything, and I totally never will be. Ever. Maybe. Probably. Okay, that's it, Mom. Come pick me up. I'm scared. Oh, and personal experience and political identity cranked this disagreement up to 11. According to Pew Research Center, majorities of Republicans have very negative views of socialism, while a majority of Democrats have positive views of both socialism and capitalism, seeing them as things that can be blended. Pew's open-ended survey responses show that people who dislike socialism often mention fears of laziness, government overreach, and examples like Venezuela. While supporters talk about fairness, safety nets, and Nordic-style policies. Heritage and Hoover highlight historical cases where heavily socialist systems led to stagnation or repression, which understandably makes people who lived under those systems allergic to any policy with social in the name. On the flip side, if your main experience of capitalism is medical bills, gig jobs, and rent that eats your paycheck, you might look at stronger socialist policies and think, honestly, I'll take the bureaucracy. And remember, kids, always listen to echo chambers and never change your mind. When you think of socialism tomorrow, just imagine Stalin breaking down your house, grabbing your toothbrush, and establishing it as the communal toothbrush. You said you don't know what communal is? It's okay. They won't know either since you're both in an echo chamber. So where does that leave you? You have to decide what matters most. Is your top priority basic security for everyone or maximum freedom and dynamism? Knowing people will, and some people will definitely fall behind. What trade-offs are you okay with? A bigger government and higher taxes for more stability, or more risk and inequality for more choice and innovation? Red flags include anyone promising utopia, like real socialism will finally work, or anyone ignoring incentives, like people will work just as hard for the same pay. And anyone pretending markets have zero downsides. You do not need someone telling you what to think. You just need to understand how it works. Thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, and only if you enjoyed this video, leave a like and subscribe as it would help so much. And maybe, just maybe, if you're feeling up to it, maybe just a little comment, or like a share, please. It might not hurt my feelings. Maybe? Okay, it will. All right. Anyways, I hope you come back to watch another video, and goodbye.